John Sitilides is back with us now to go through the whole back and forth here and the escalating rhetoric. He's a geopolitical strategist with Trilogy Advisors. Thanks again for being here. President Hassan Rouhani willing to negotiate, he claims, if the U.S. lifts sanctions and apologizes. Is this sudden willingness, and I have to put that in quotes, to negotiate really just an empty statement from Iran, or is it a sign that this whole maximum pressure campaign is actually working?
Well, when I heard about the demand for an apology, I wondered if I was reading something out of The Onion or some other parody media outlet. It's about as absurd and as pathetic a demand as can come from Tehran. These are extraordinarily serious issues. And the Trump administration has made very plain that there are a series of demands that Secretary Pompeo had laid out several months ago when the sanctions regime was being reimposed on Iran. And if Iran is able to moderate and change its regime's behavior in the region and on a worldwide basis, then I think there are grounds for revisiting the talks that began several years ago about Iran's nuclear weapons program. But the idea that somehow the United States is going to pull back on economic sanctions that are having maximum devastating impact on Iran's already very troubled economy is sheer lunacy on the part of Tehran. And the idea that President Trump or any U.S. president would apologize to Iran when Iran maybe would need to apologize first for killing 600 U.S. servicemen over the course of 8 years in Iraq, for being the world's leading state sponsor of international terrorism, for planning assassination plots in Washington, D.C., Paris, Latin America, and throughout the world, and for proliferating ballistic missiles. So I think maybe the apology demand might come from the other direction first.
Yeah, John, President Rouhani also said that before there can be talks, quote, we have to make America regret its actions. It sounds like a not-so-veiled threat.
Well, it sounds that way, but I have a very difficult time believing that the Iranian leadership, or for that matter, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, led by Mr. Qasemi, would even think about doing anything along the lines of what has been intimated in media reports, such as attacking vessels in the Persian Gulf or shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. First of all, it would be just a massive self-inflicted wound on, again, the already teetering Iranian economy, which is utterly dependent on oil and natural gas exports, mostly to Asian and to European markets. But what's interesting is that since President Trump was sworn in January of 2017, we've seen an almost complete zeroing out of Iranian naval harassment of U.S. vessels in the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean region near the Iranian coastline that we had seen taking place in great numbers under the prior administration. So I think the Iranian administration, or the Iranian regime, understands that it's a very different administration in Washington right now. I'd be surprised if they took on, with any serious ferocity, the U.S. military in the Persian Gulf or the region. I think a lot of this is empty rhetoric, quite desperate, and maybe sort of a last grab to try to hold on to markets such as China and Turkey, which do seem to be the holdouts on the U.S. sanctions.
All right, John Sitilides, geopolitical strategist, thanks so much for joining us again.